So I have the memo in front of us that, and I thank you. I really, really appreciate your honesty here. Mr. Donchez had sent this memo to City Council on November 25th, and I imagine, Mr. Donchez, that this was something that had been reviewed by your other members of your staff, your legal counsel, and everything else. It says, that, I will not read the whole memo, but there is a paragraph that states, on August 28th, the Bethlehem Parking Authority voted on the RFP. They chose Perone Petrucci. Mr. Callahan claims Ms. Carner called members of the BPA board right before the vote in order to offer suggestions, and that was unethical. Given that it was an RFP and not a bid, Ms. Carner or any member of the committee would be absolutely within their rights to offer their opinion on the proposals to members of the board. It was not unethical, it was their role. Mr. Donchez, why did you put together this ad hoc committee, if you don't mind me asking, to necessarily study these proposals?
I removed myself from the committee simply because I felt I had a conflict since my son's employed by Attorney Petrucci for the last 12 years, even though he has nothing to do with Perone development at all. And I just felt, as I have on several occasions, consulted with Solicitor Leeson, and I recused myself, and that's why the committee was formed. Mr. Evans went on. The Parking Authority wanted the city involved, so there was going to be a committee. But when I was made aware of Perone submitting a proposal, that's when I recused myself, and I made that very clear.
And the committee was created between Mr. Evans, Dr. Van Wert, Ms. Carner, Ms. Heller,
and then President Waldron. I felt it was important to have a member of City Council, and initially it was President Waldron, and then Councilwoman Ben.
Because I believe, and this was shared at some point, that the Parking Authority, and this is probably more of an administrative question, is you had reached out to the Parking Authority. Mr. Livingston had expressed a desire for there to be a city role in the retail portion of this.
Correct. A city role for the whole process.
Okay. Mr. Conley, was there anything else you wanted to add to Mr. Donch's comments right there?
Not yet. If you have more, go ahead. I'll be more than happy to respond.
Well, I would say that I think that, and in the memo that we had received back on August 22nd, the administration's memo talked about how they both were good projects, and how there are different factors that enter into their recommendation. That obviously finances are one of them, and like I said, I think that they both, looking at the information now, both of them are, and I hope that it's a great project, and it's built and it adds to the Polk Street development. But as I was looking through this, and I think that some of the things that Mr. Callahan just added on to his comments just a few minutes ago, when he said that the report was the most biased report he's ever read. He talked about information from one applicant. He made the argument about $190,000 more. He said it was not a unanimous choice. And I believe when you look back at these other meetings, and Mr. Callahan is the liaison from our body to the Parking Authority. He is the liaison. So he represents us, just like we have different roles. And I think Mr. Othman, who's here, referenced my liaisonship to the EAC. But it was, and looking at the memo here, on August 13th, the ad hoc committee met with the two firms, and that was Dr. Van Wert, Ms. Carner, Ms. Heller, Mr. Evans, and then the two different potential projects. On August 20th, Mr. Callahan publicly referenced the August 13th ad hoc committee meetings relating to the Polk Street request for proposals. It was in the middle of criticism of several council members, including myself, and Dr. Van Wert, and Mr. Callahan bringing up an issue that Dr. Van Wert brought up in that meeting, and this is all public, by the way. Nothing I am saying here is any rumor, innuendo, not things I heard, not this person told me this person. This is all what has been said in this room with that camera on. So on August 20th, Mr. Callahan publicly referenced the August 13th ad hoc committee. In the middle of his criticism of Dr. Ann Word, he said something about how she had asked a question in this meeting about the potential for affordable housing in this project. Mr. Callahan references the conversation, the negotiations, and he talks, and he says, quote, "The discussion came up. The committee wanted to know if he would build units for low-income housing. I guess the response was, I can't build it for $200 a square foot and rent it for $50 a square foot. Affordable housing is more of a government duty. That is what the discussion was. His opinion was, I can't do that financially. And you can't make people do projects that they won't want to do." This was the August 20th board meeting. Then the BPA board didn't even vote on it until August 28th. So even though they had received the city's administration's recommendation, and the way these requests for proposals work is, in a lot of things, is people submit, then they pull them in, there's negotiations and things like that. So then at the recent meeting, where Mr. Callahan, on, I believe it was November 6th, he accused Ms. Carner of being unethical. He expressed concern about, quote, Ms. Carner putting pressure on other entities during the RFP process. He stated, as he did again tonight, that she reached out to people of the parking authority on the day of the vote, put pressure on them to accept a lower bid. Did you or did you not call the board? Did you call multiple people to renegotiate to accept a lower bid? Then the Allentown quote was given. A couple of notes at this point. First of all, the memo answered this question about the appropriateness of anybody on that HOC committee contacting any member of the Parking Authority Board. Second, the administration also laid out the definition of the difference between a request for a proposal and a bid. And third of all, this, as I said, this does not have to do with the merits of either project, and quite frankly, I was reading through this and it seems like they both are high-quality projects, so I think you could make an argument for either one. But Mr. Callahan is our Parking Authority liaison. The winning proposal that was picked by the Parking Authority Board, that was not the recommended project of the administration, includes one of his family members. And as the Parking Authority liaison, he should not be having conversations with board members about their decision. He should not be publicly advocating for including affordable housing or not. He should not have had any conversations with anyone in that ad hoc committee on August 13th. He definitely should not be referencing those conversations publicly in order to advocate for an aspect of the project, either addition, subtraction of affordable housing, for a vote, which was August 28th. And I don't think anybody could disagree that that behavior there is unequivocally inappropriate. Most importantly, it's all public. It all is mentioned publicly. This is also just what we know that he has said publicly. His knowledge of the details, I mean, square footage, 50 versus 200, he had obviously a lot of confidence in this particular issue when he accused Ms. Carner of being unethical. As I said, he has not said anything about this over the past 30 days, and he is certainly free to handle himself any way he wants to. And like I said, this is not about the merits of the Polk Street project. I think when you read the memo, it is clear that the administration thought that there were positives to both. But he is our liaison to the Parking Authority. He is this body's representative. I cannot imagine, and if he had never said anything at any of those meetings, and he just spoke 10 minutes ago, I would think that he should not be our Parking Authority liaison. This project also is not over. It has not been built. It might have to go to the Planning Commission. There are details to be worked out. And so outside of everything that's been mentioned and the fact that this project needs to go on, I do not have confidence that Mr. Callahan should continue as our liaison to the Parking Authority. I feel as if this has damaged further the reputation or the connection between City Council and the Parking Authority. And I think we just need to look at his own comments from previous meetings and also what he said today when he said, this is the most biased report I've ever read. He might feel that, but he's not the one that should be making that particular argument when a member of his family is involved in this bid, or this RFP, I should say. And I think that this project is a great project that currently is in a shadow of Mr. Callahan's, how do I say this, his support of the project publicly. I think it has brought in, I mean, when he first raised this issue a month ago, it has come up multiple times. And, you know, I feel going forward, and I would make a motion that City Council should remove Mr. Callahan as the liaison to the Parking Authority.